want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic. And we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Motivation Manifestation Monday. So today we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to actually bring politics into Monday, and you're probably wondering, why the hell are we doing that? This is supposed to be all about positivity. But the reason why I wanted to do this episode on Monday is because it left me feeling, for the first time in a long while, hopeful and optimistic about the future of our country. So I wanted to kind of share with everybody what my thoughts are on this. And, hopefully it'll leave you feeling a little more hopeful too, since we do so many doom and gloom Friday episodes. So as you know, Tara, over the past few months, with those Friday episodes that are really important because everyone should know all this crazy shit that's going on. But the flip side of that is they've left me just feeling totally terrified about the world that my children are growing up in. And the other night, I ended up watching the CNN town hall with Trump. And I have to say that, it's the first time in this past year that I felt like it's a possibility that peace might be possible with this whole war in Ukraine, and that maybe we won't have World War III after all. And it's the most uplifted I've felt in a long time with regards to our country. So I wanted to share just a brief clip of the town hall so that everyone knows what I'm talking about.
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down.
Can I just follow up on that? You said you don't think in terms of winning and losing. Mr. President, can I just follow up on that because that's a really important statement.
Excuse me, let me just follow up.
Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
Okay, so first of all, a couple of things there. The audience cheering. That shocked the hell out of me at a CNN town hall because, they probably pick through their people, to try to find the people that aren't going to make them look good. And the whole crowd, the entire time, they were cheering for him. They were all about it. And that shocked me. And that gave me hope. But what he gave a perfect answer. He wasn't giving in to winning or losing or anything like that. He was calling for peace. And I wanted to emphasize this because you have one person right now calling for peace, trying to prevent World War III from happening, and it's Trump. And how ironic that he was the person who the left said couldn't be trusted with the nuclear codes. Remember Hillary saying we can't give him the nuclear codes, yet he seems to be the only rational person saying that we need to end this right now before any more people die, whether they're Ukrainian people or Russian people. He's the only damn person talking about that and wanting to put an end to it. And I believe him when he says that he would have it over with in 24 hours. This guy is probably the best business negotiator in the world. And you put him in a room with Putin and Zelensky, who he both had very respectable relationships with, he'd get it done. He's probably the only damn person that could get it done. Now, I want to contrast that with our current president, Biden, and where he stands with the Ukraine war. So this is a clip that we played a while back when he went to the border, or not the border, the Ukrainian border, I should say, not our own border.
Yeah, he hasn't gone to our border.
Yeah, he hasn't done shit for our border, but helping Ukrainians border so that their people, could get all this money and keep their pensions. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
I want you to know that all the people of Ukraine to know as well, the American people are with you every step of the way, and we will stay with you. We will stay with you for as long as it takes. What you're doing what you've achieved. It matters not just to Ukraine, but to the entire world. And together, I have no doubt we'll keep the flame of liberty burning bright, and the light will remain and prevail over the darkness. Thank you for being here, Mr. President. We're going to stand with you. $1.85 billion package of security assistance that includes both direct transfers of equipment that Ukraine needs, as well as contracts to supply ammunition Ukraine will need in the months ahead for its artillery, its tanks, and its rocket launchers. Critically, in addition to these new capabilities, like precision aerial munitions, the package will include a Patriot missile battery, which will train Ukrainian forces to operate as part of the ongoing effort to help bolster Ukraine's air defense. Altogether, today's new security assistance with humanitarian funding amounts to $2.2 billion in additional support for the Ukrainian people.
So yeah, just like not even on the content yet, but just hearing the tone, you have one person that is passionate and that wants peace and that is like, what are we doing? Get the president in the room with these guys. And then you have our president now that goes to see Zelensky. And first of all, he sounds like he's sleeping. I mean, clearly he's reading off a teleprompter. He has no idea what the hell he's saying. No enthusiasm, no passion whatsoever, because he has no idea what's going on.
He didn't have his adrenaline shot.
Yeah, they didn't pump him up full of Adderall or whatever the hell it is they use with him. And then just keep sending money to protect their border when the United States could sure use some protection for our border. So I'm not here to tell anyone that they have to love Trump or become Republican or to choose sides. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. I don't think there can be sides anymore. I think the only way that our country is going to be back on track is if we unite. And the only way our freedoms are protected and we can stop from getting into a nuclear war is if we unite. We have to stop getting pissed at each other for being liberal or conservatives and start coming together as human beings that want to survive and thrive. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by coming together. And Biden was supposed to be the great uniter. And all he has done has divided us further than we have ever been, at least in my lifetime, possibly ever. He's caused mass chaos at the border, in our economy, within our cities, and on the world stage. And whenever you think of Trump, it's plain as day that he wants peace and a thriving economy like we had for 4 years while he was president. And like I said, he has the negotiating skills and relationship with Putin to pull it off. And quite frankly, I think that he's the only damn person that's truly calling for this war to end and can actually make it happen. So watching this town hall just, it gave me hope that maybe we have not reached that point of no return. Maybe we can get back on track, prevent World War III and a nuclear catastrophe, and quite possibly our kids have a future of freedom. So Tara, I wanted to get your perspective on this and tell me if am I being too naive and optimistic? What are your thoughts?
So honestly, Stephanie, I kind of have a difficult time answering this question, honestly, because my response is kind of two-pronged. And in theory, I 100% agree with you. And I believe the majority of Americans feel the same way. Like, we want peace. We want a thriving economy. We want prosperity and safety and security in this country. And we want a leader who will get our country back on track. And regardless of whether or not you agree with Trump's personal history, or you're offended by mean tweets or his ego or whatever, you can't deny that Trump loves America and that he wants this country to be great. And he is someone who has proven time and again that he can persevere through adversity and come out on top. He is one of the most outstanding businessmen in this country. He has failed and come back so many times. And it's just that perseverance to do great things. And my belief is, the whole MAGA theme is not a campaign slogan when it comes to Trump. It's something real. And it's something that I think most Americans do believe in and want to come to fruition. We want to make America great again. But I also believe that the majority of Americans who share your sense of optimism and hope are naive to how truly destructive and evil our current federal administration is and the lengths that our government will go to maintain power. Because good people don't want to believe that that kind of evil exists. And I believe that the majority of Americans are good people who can't fathom that our government actually is trying to destroy the country from within, take away our freedoms, and basically enslave us. And I think that there are just too many people who either don't care enough or they're not concerned enough to make their voices heard because they don't believe that we are in actual danger. They don't believe what's going on in this country, because if you don't pay attention to what's really happening, or you just listen to the MSM, or you don't listen to the news at all, it's very easy to naively believe that things aren't that bad. And you and I have talked about this several times in the past. Before doing this podcast, we both kind of stayed away from the news. And if we weren't doing this podcast and I wasn't doing all the research that I'm constantly doing to prepare for our episodes, I wouldn't be paying attention to what's really going on in this country. And I would be just as naive as the majority of the population, and believing that we aren't really in that much danger as a country. Because if you just look at day-to-day life, especially in middle America, living in a community like I do with good people who help each other out and they're hardworking and they are patriotic and they love this country. And aside from the effects of inflation, things don't seem that bad, right? On a day-to-day basis, we go about living our lives and it doesn't seem that bad. And if I hadn't been a cop for 15 years and seen firsthand the worst of humanity and learned what evil is truly capable of and what manipulative and desperate people do to survive, maybe I would have a more naive outlook and I would fully believe that good conquers evil. But I've seen the opposite and I know what evil is capable of. And I believe that our current government administration is truly evil. And I think that so many people are just stuck in this old mentality, like you were saying, of being liberal or conservative and just identifying so strongly with a particular party and holding on to that party identity. And that's what's tearing this country apart. The only way we are going to win back our country is by letting go of party lines and identifying together in unity as Americans. And that is what I love about Trump, the fact that he loves this country and he wants to unite everyone to make it a great place again.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. But I also feel like I felt it. I guess I've seen it and I've heard it, but I've more so felt like the tides have been changing recently because I think things are, you're right, like they're not horrible, but I do think the average Americans are like, what the fuck when they go to the grocery store and it's double what it was a couple of years ago, or when they can't, get a vehicle, or when they go to fill up their gas tank and it's outrageous, or when they see their kids' school pushing transgenderism and talking about, sex like as kindergartners and all that kind of stuff. So I do think people are kind of realizing way more than when Trump was in office that there is something nefarious going on in our country. And I think it has caused a lot of people to perk up a little bit and maybe be a little more open to Trump, or just really to anyone other than Biden, because they can see the direction that things are going. And I think that CNN is so pissed about this town hall because, like I said, the audience loved him. The entire town hall, they were cheering for him. They laughed with him. They cheered so loudly when he called out that rude host.
Yeah.
I mean, they were totally on his side. He won them over. And that audience was united. They didn't care about the stuff the host was bringing up. The questions that they were asking were about the real things that matter. Like, are we going to war? How are we going to bring costs down and stop inflation? That's what the real American people want, despite what the mainstream media, is trying to push out. And I think more and more people are waking up and realizing that they've been lied to. What they thought they were going to get with Joe Biden certainly isn't what they're getting. And I think they're starting to realize that maybe this party that preaches peace is actually the one that's causing wars. And when I say party, I don't mean Democrat or Republican. I mean the uniparty, the career politicians that have been bought and paid for by the elites that are really running things, and the media that's controlled by this uniparty and just spreads lies because Trump is clearly not one of them. And I can't say that about anyone else, not even DeSantis. And you know what, like how I know this is because they'll do anything to make sure he isn't reelected because they're terrified of him. So that's how I know that he's the only damn person I can trust. And, you know, people can think that I'm some mega MAGA extremist or whatever. I don't care. And I think it's crazy that somehow we've turned the word MAGA, make America great again, into like a bad word. Why is that bad? Doesn't everyone want their country to be great? Like, I don't care anymore. Like, I don't care because I'm on the side of peace and humanity.
Yeah, I think that word is actually on the domestic terrorist list.
I mean, imagine that. Like, imagine, you know, in our childhood, if someone would have said that that word was going to make you a terrorist by saying you want to make America great again. Like, what? How far have we come from just common sense? And, you know, like I said, for the first time in really 2 years, I feel hopeful that things can turn around. We've had all these doom and gloom episodes because, quite frankly, our freedoms are being attacked every single day like never before. But I do see another path emerging, and I see and sense more people speaking up and looking at the facts and using common sense instead of emotions, instead of just listening to whatever CNN or the mainstream media tells them. And when you look at the most recent polling, it shows that 58% of Democrats want someone other than Biden in the White House, which tells me that even Democrats are seeing the effect of these policies and how they're hurting our country. And 38% of people would vote for Biden versus 44% for Trump. That's a pretty big gap there. And I think that people who didn't like Trump because of the media constantly bashing him are starting to realize that he got the job done. And this country was a pretty damn good place to live when he was president. And I think that they're willing to give him a chance just looking at how drastically things have changed. So, like, you're always going to have the never Trumpers, but it seems like more and more people with common sense are changing their view. These polling numbers and the town hall, I think it made me optimistic about 2024 because I was thinking that no one's going to change their mind on Trump. You either love him or you hate him. But now I disagree. Like, I think people's minds are being changed every single day. And I just hope that everyone can put aside their preconceived notions and look at what's right in front of them, not what the media is telling them. Just look at what's right in front of you. Look at your investment account versus where it was under Trump. Look at your savings. Look at the cost at the grocery store, the cost of gas, how fearful you are of your children's safety, of your own safety versus how you felt when he was president. And I think it's crystal clear that, you know, we want someone back that is going to promote peace and prosperity. And why wouldn't we believe him at that? We had that for 4 years under him. There was peace in the Middle East, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. He's the only president in history that didn't put more troops out and start more wars. So I'm just like advocating for peace, for a thriving economy, for choosing freedom, for choosing humanity. And Biden sure as fuck isn't going to give us any of those. So for me, there's clearly one option, and that's Trump. So there, I said it. I don't care what anyone thinks because I'm staying true to my values and what's right. And let me tell you, an open border isn't compassionate. Sending billions of dollars to protect a corrupt country's border is fucking stupid. War and death is never something that you're going to hear me promote. Destroying our economy, destroying our farmlands, our source of reliable, cheap, clean energy is not something that I'll ever go along with. So yeah, like right now, I'm on the side of Trump.
Yeah. And this is honestly why it's so critical to unite as a country and not allow our freedoms to be taken away with another stolen election. Because just like you said, you can, go ahead and call me a MAGA extremist. I firmly believe that the 2020 election was totally sabotaged, and I believe Trump actually won that election and fraud was rampant. So you can call me an election denier, and I don't really care because I am a proud patriotic American and I want to see this country thrive. And the only way that is going to happen is to unite as Americans under a leader who loves this country and who is willing to confront the corruption that's happening from within, hold the people who are destroying America accountable, and we have an opportunity to save this country and have peace and economic prosperity that makes this country great. But the only way that's going to happen is if we all come together as Americans. And I was reminded of something the other day because I was listening to a Tony Robbins, not seminar, but like a little course that he did. And he was talking about back in the 80s with, like the Cold War and between Reagan and Gorbachev, and how, we were literally on the brink of nuclear war back then. I mean, the Cold War was a serious thing. And he was talking about how Reagan ended up going to Russia and talking with Gorbachev, and they were in this very heated debate. And Reagan basically, like, it was about to just, they were both like at their wits' end. And Reagan like got up, turned away to walk out, turned around and just like smiled at him and like stuck out his hand and said, "Hi, I'm Ron. It's nice to meet you. Can we start over?" And I don't see Biden ever being capable of having an interaction like that with another world leader because he's such a fucking idiot. And Trump has that ability. He has that personality where he can sit down with other world leaders. And like you said, within a matter of 24 hours, he could easily stop what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. And listening to that story from Tony Robbins, and I guess he sat down and he interviewed both Reagan and he interviewed Gorbachev. And they both said that that was the moment when they came to the peace talks, was that experience of sitting down just as normal people and having a conversation. And I think Trump is the one that can do that for us.
I totally agree. And he's the only one that's really talking about the only way to end this is to get the presidents in a room together alone. And he's the only one that'll do that. So he's really our only hope, like literally our only hope when it comes to stopping World War III from breaking out. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Biden sure as hell isn't going to do it. I don't know that we'll make it to 2024 with Biden. But I think that the best bet we have is Trump getting in there and ending it, like he said, within 24 hours. So I'm going to keep just, visualizing peace and that we're going to get our country back in order. And I'm going to go ahead and just be naive and be delusional and keep affirming that our country is going to come back. The bad guys are going to be found out and like we'll have justice and accountability. And I get that like that's probably never going to happen. And I probably sound crazy, but for the first time in 2 years, I feel like I actually can visualize that and just keep affirming it and hope for the best. So I hope that gives everyone else some hope after our, crazy apocalypse Fridays sometimes where it feels like the whole world's ending. Maybe that'll give you a little bit of hope that there is another option. We just have to open our eyes and see that it's standing right in front of us and choose it. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you have a great week and we'll see you back here for Weird Wednesday. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you get our latest episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you could, please rate and review the show. We are going to be reading every single review, and I would love it if you hopped over to Instagram at Unapologetically Outspoken and say hi. We want to see who's out there and start a conversation, plus get all of the topics that you want us to talk about next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.